Hello and welcome to Real Menopause Talk. My guest today is Maryjane Fahey, writer, creator, founder of Glorious Broads. It's a tough gig to introduce Maryjane as there are so many adjectives that apply to her, but I guess if I had to choose just 3, it would be creative, sexy, and bold. If you haven't yet discovered Glorious Broads, I am delighted to make the introduction, as every single time I visit her page or website or read one of her articles, I feel enriched. Maryjane and all her glorious broads are exactly what I want to be as I grow up. And maybe that's the hook. They are their true selves. No pretense, no fitting in, their true, bold and brilliant selves where ageism simply doesn't exist. She tells us in this episode about her life, her creativity, sexuality, choices, what drives her, and the peace to be found on the other side of menopause. It's one of those truly fascinating, inspiring and fun conversations. Take more chances, is her message, especially when the exit is nearer. Push yourself to take those chances in life and enjoy a martini along the way. Maryjane Fahey, it is such an honour to meet you. I remember reading the first article of yours that I came across. Would you like to start by telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
Well, sure. I'm Maryjane Fahey. I'm a New Yorker, born in Brooklyn, raised in Brooklyn, and couldn't wait to get over here to Manhattan. That was my goal, looking at that bridge. I come from a matriarchy of 9 women in our house.
Wow.
And 2 men, Irish Catholic. As a result, I'm very drawn to women. I'm very comfortable to women. My lovers have usually been men, but that's, the energy that I like. I've gone through a lot of reinventions, but I think we'll get to those questions. So that's a little bit about myself. Just born an artist and remain an artist.
You say 9 women in your household, and you are one of 6 daughters, sisters?
6. Yeah, 5 women, 5 girls, and one poor brother. Totally. People say, "Oh, was he spoiled?" No, he was ignored. Poor God.
Where do you fall in the line of ages?
Well, I would say there's 2 halves. So the first 3 were before the 60s revolution, and then I came. And there was a little gap to my mother that there was 4 years. Will she have another? And I became, the top of the second half. And it was, frankly, I think the best half, meaning, the 60s revolution, they were tired of being parents and we were able to rule. So that's how that worked.
And what do you do for a living for those that don't know? And how has that evolved?
Oh, sure. I got into publication design, and it was when publications were really ruling. I have to say I had a great career, and I would go from publication to publication and redesign them and traveled worldwide. So it was wonderful. Some of my clients have been the Boston Globe, but the most glamorous one has been Tatler. You know Tatler, right?
I do.
And I did it with a partner. I would always pick partners depending on the project. And I did it with a fabulous fashionista pal named Mariana Oakes. And we were basically based in Hong Kong for about a year. And from there, we would go to the Philippines. We would go to Japan. It was a fabulous job. Anyway, what happened was the economic crisis. And suddenly we went from being the bomb to being one of several people that we were now kind of interviewing for, and instead of them coming to us. I'm not saying, I think my ego is in a pretty good place, but I didn't like that we went from being sought after to seeking jobs that weren't nearly as good. So I became disenchanted with it. And around that time, I came into a little bit of money because I sold my apartment, and I had a breakup with my, not husband, but very much a partner of 15 years. I was anxious for a change. So I didn't work for a year or two, wrote a book. It was supposed to be a deep and heavy book, but it was fun instead, about getting dumped, because I did get dumped, and that has to do with menopause. And started writing more, and started Glorious Broads, which is the project I'm working on now.
Mhm.
So I'm writing now for a living, doing Glorious Broads for a living, and mostly I really consider it a platform. There are many projects within Glorious Broads that I'm doing, which is a television show. I'm writing a play. I have a fabulous partner in media, and that's what I'm all about now. So really a lot of reinventions, and there were other things in between.
I love your phrase restarts
Yes,
because I've had a few myself, and reinvention is positive.
yes,
But I have fully embraced the idea of having restarts throughout your life because you
yes.
need to.
And I prefer
Hmm.
restarts rather than reinventions. Thanks for that slap. I prefer restarts.
I love it. You wrote it. I've just adopted
Uh-huh.
it.
Well, the thing that I'm careful with the language of reinvention is I was working for a while at ARP, and I was hired there. Here's another restart. I was hired there to be the head editor and the head, inventor of something they were imagining up called disrupt aging. So it was not the usual ARP job. It was like, let's really disrupt this. Let's go for unconventional broads. Let's really, stir up the pot. But what happened was it got vanillaed out. And after 3 years, I left. But it was excellent to be an editor there. I'd never been an editor, to hire all of my writing friends, and to do a lot of art direction. I'm still very much an art director, and I use that in my life. So that was a great chance to flex muscles. And I would say to all the women out there, even if it scares the hell out of you, jump in the pot and do it. What are your restarts?
Too many to count. Although I went through a phase of divorce and change of career, and therefore being a little bit ashamed of them. And now I've just come to believe that actually it's just what's led me to be where I am now and who I am now and all that kind of
Yes.
cliche. But I'm not ashamed of any of it. It's just things that have happened and what I've done with that next.
Yeah.
So working on the next restart,
Yes.
frankly. I would love to talk about Glorious Broads more.
Sure.
But first of all, going a little bit back to menopause. Where are you in terms of menopause and how was it?
Oh, I'm in postmenopause, which is a beautiful place to be. I can sum up my menopause awakening
Mhm.
by having a conversation with a doctor of mine, a male doctor, and an older male doctor. And I told him about my lack of sexual urge when I have always been a sexual person. And he actually said to me, I don't know why that would be. You got all the equipment. Can you imagine?
Mm.
So at that point, I walked out of his office and never, ever talked to him again. And I started, investigating what is going on. I found a woman doctor, and I was able to go on low dosage hormones. I am not recommending that for everyone. But I'm going to use the word vulva, vagina, my clit went from being a juicy area to dry, and it hurt. I don't think people talk about this enough,
No.
and
Hmm.
they don't. They talk about hot flashes, but this was such a shock for me. I was with this man that I loved, and suddenly I was just like, get away from me. Don't go near me. Don't touch me. And also, I was a bitch during that time, because menopause was not easy for me. And it was interesting with all of these older sisters, it was a different generation. So they just didn't have any, have a blueberry shake. A blueberry shake was not going to help me. I radically changed from thank goodness, I have a happy attitude about life. I'm an optimist, and I went deep into the world of gray. So I would have to say, I hate to scare women out there, it's better that you know
Hmm.
that there was like 4 years of sadness and grumpiness. The career that I had no longer did it for me, which was my publication art direction job. My sister passed away, and it was just the lights went off. My man left me at the time, and in retrospect, I don't blame him. He was younger than me, 15 years younger, and he didn't know what was going on. But worse, I didn't know what was going on. I wasn't informed, but I did not look into it like what's happening here? At any rate, the good news is post-menopause, those drugs started working. I went without sex. When I left my mate, I just didn't want to have anything to do with it. And suddenly, I became interested again. And I was sitting at a bar. I can tell you the exact moment, sitting at a bar with a friend, and that tingle came back. And I picked out my victim at the bar. We had sex soon after, and everything came alive. And then I went on Tinder, and I went on a dating spree, a sex spree that made up for my dead years. Here I am all these years later. My sexuality is back. I'm happy again. I'm taking all these chances. I just say to women who are scared stiff of it, there are lots of different stories. Mine happens to be a good one. But it was 5 years of toughness.
Well, libido is one that I get asked a lot of questions about, because when it does go, and mine dropped off the face of the planet for a good few years, or certainly 2 or 3. You just think, oh my God, is this it?
Yes.
I swore in my 20s I'd be having great sex all the time until I'm at least 80, if not 180. And then suddenly mid-40s, it's like, oh, maybe I won't.
Yes.
But it comes back.
For me, it did. I wrote something about it. It might have been on Tinder, where I get a lot of interesting comments from young women and from people my own age. And everyone has a different story. For me, I do think it was the drugs and the camaraderie of this wonderful gynecologist and opening up to a few women friends. But for others, it might just be a more organic lifestyle. I have a problem with that. Really? That did it? Everyone has a different stories. And some people, good friends of mine, they lost their drive and in time didn't care. They just didn't care. They never went back and they felt freer. I hope you're back on the...
I'm very happy to say that, yes, I am. Everything is all good. It's a relief.
Yes. Because that, for me, that does have to do with, the verve in my step. I like sex. I like pleasure. You see, that's the thing for me. It's not just sex. It's just the pleasure in life. No matter how old we get, we deserve and we should have pleasure in all its forms.
Absolutely. And that is something that I have found even in Glorious Broads, just looking on Instagram, on your website. Every single time I look at one of the women that you are talking to or read about them, it lights me up. And the energy that you bring, the energy that they bring, that is something I want to have every single day. It's amazing.
Yes. Are you a TikTok user?
I am, for my sins, yes.
Well, what I want to say about that, I'm not looking for more business, but it has been so fun to get on TikTok because I have a whole different audience there, young women, and they just want to know, if they don't have a close relationship with their mother or aunt or whatever, what's it going to be like? What is menopause going to be like? Will I fuck when I'm 70s? I am using curse words.
Welcome.
What's it going to be like? And we're telling them. It's been a very exuberant experience for me.
And do you literally just walk around New York and find them, because New York is a hot spot for wonderful women?
I do. I do for TikTok. For Glorious Broads, I learn of a fabulous woman, and then she will have a recommendation and they will have a recommendation. And on my website, I ask for nominations. The website tends to be really da-da-da-da, while on the streets, it's just like, you look interesting, let's chat. And most of them will chat.
And they've all got wonderful stories to tell. And I don't believe you can reach a certain age and not have a story. But they have particularly good stories.
Oh, yeah.
They're all wonderful. What gave you the idea?
Well, actually, that's what my play is about. What gave me the idea is the simplest thing. I had a lovely mother, a great grandmother, but I wasn't happy for me as a kind of feisty kid. And again, growing up in the 60s, I wasn't happy for them about how they aged out. They began to not see their worth. They put all of their energy into their kids, and they weren't happy in old age. But I was drawn to feisty old broads. And what turned me on was an obituary, and it was probably about 10 years ago, an obituary of this woman. And she was in her late 80s. She changed her sexual interest in her 80s. She wrote a book in her 80s. She took up motorcycling in her 80s, moved out of town in her 80s, got a place in the Catskill in her 80s, became a Kabbalah lover and a spiritual person, as well as having lots of lovers. I was like, I want to be that.
Amazing.
So that's who it is, Clara Hancock's, a
Wow.
person I didn't know. And was a columnist, which I love too, in fashion. Yeah. And I saw that. I was like, oh, 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 oh. And oddly, that kind of like, I'm sure there are many of others. And that's how it began, slowly but surely. I also, as I said, had a sister in town, and she is a casting director. And she would just say, oh, you got to meet this person. And I would meet that person. And she was like, I think she was in her late 80s, and she was so full of life. And she would turn me on to another one. And it's not just about age. Sometimes I interview people who were 45 or 50. It's just, having a certain view of life. And usually they're very unconventional.
Which is another thing that I love, as well as the amplification of the conversation around aging being positive.
Yeah.
And like you said, with Clara doing all those things in her
That.
80s,
Yes.
it is as though the best is yet to come.
Yeah.
So being young, great. I certainly enjoyed my 20s, 30s, wonderful. I don't want to do it again.
No, me neither.
I'm very happy to move in the forwards direction and can't wait to be postmenopausal.
Oh, yes, it's great. You don't have to worry about pregnancy, which is now such a real issue here. And you know your body better. I think the main thing is you are really confident.
Mm-hmm.
And you make the decisions. I don't mean that I'm a boss lady in bed, but I am a lot of the time.
Good for you. The portrayal of menopause and aging in the media, given that you write, that you are putting together a play amongst other forms of media as well, is not always positive still. And I first discovered you through one of your articles about And Just Like That. And I was absolutely devoted to Sex and the City.
Oh, yes, we all were.
All the episodes of the TV series. I absolutely loved the fashion, the camaraderie, the essential ingredients of each of the characters. And I watch or have, and I'm waiting for the second season of And Just Like That. But I feel with Samantha, they're missing one of their key ingredients.
Absolutely.
She kind of held everything together.
Absolutely.
She spoke openly.
Yes.
And the way the current characters speak makes them feel incredibly outdated and out of touch with the world.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, like they can't, figure out how to work their phones. I mean, where are you?
Exactly.
Very, very not modern.
These are supposed to be New York intelligent women, and it's embarrassing at times, which makes me very sad to say.
Yes.
Their friendship has remained, or it's clinging on, depending on which way you look at it, over obviously decades. And your glorious broads, they're obviously, some of them are new to you, but your tribe around you, has that evolved, or have you carried friends along? Has menopause changed it? I suppose really what I'm asking is your friendship group. How has friendship changed through the decades and maybe even through menopause?
Well, I would have to say it's interesting that you bring up friendship. I just lost a good friend.
I'm sorry.
I don't mean she passed away.
Oh, okay.
I mean that we had a breakup, and I was very hurt by this. And I'm bringing this up because if something happens to me, I will inquire about it, whether it be Google, whether it be a shrink talk. I will grieve it, and figure it out. So when this happened, I went to my fabulous shrink. She said the most interesting thing. And she said, if you were in a room and she was in that room right now, instead of the woman you met 25 years ago, would you be drawn to her? And I said, absolutely not. I don't like what she's grown to be. What she's grown to be is a fearful woman of age. And I don't find her as interesting as I did as a 20-year-old or whatever I was, 30-year-old. So I would say how friendship has changed for me is, I was a go out girl. I was a party girl. I took my career very seriously in my mid 30s, but 20s, I was out all the time. You're much more fussy about how you spend your time. And I'm also very comfortable in my own skin. I mean, a lot of people there were a lot of problems with COVID, but I kind of love staying home and writing. So I just have found myself fussier, and I don't need a giant group like I did when I was young. I'm stealing Jane Fonda's line, but I loved when she said, I am drawn to women who will keep my rigid, or she probably said straight back straighter. And that's what I want someone who inspires me. So that would be the change. It's not just a gangbang. It's more of, I don't need to go out all the time at all. I'm fussier. And what's happened through Glorious Broads is that they're not all buddies, but some of them are. And where it has changed for me, I used to say, "Oh, my black friend from Washington. Oh, my 85-year-old friend who lives uptown." You know what I mean? There were boxes. I don't believe I'm racist. I don't believe I'm ageist. It's just the way I'm going to say we tend to think. No longer. That has really changed. Now it's my fabulous buddy uptown. Now I have really worked on my inherent racism. I didn't think I was, but through COVID, I joined this fabulous ageist racist group. And I learned a lot about ageism that even I had about myself, and about racism that even I had. It's all the same. It's just
Mhm.
like, all of these isms is the same. I hope that was a long-winded way of answering you.
It absolutely was. And it's inspiring in itself, because I don't know whether it's COVID or growing older or both, or maybe it's just the way the world is evolving. It shines a light on the way that we have been taught to speak and think growing up.
Yeah,
And I'm embarrassed and sad to say that, yes, around an awful lot of racism that I wasn't even aware of
right.
for much of the time. I am grateful now that I am aware of
Yes,
it so I can address it.
yes,
The ageism is fascinating because, yes, I focus a lot on menopause, but the men are drawn in even more to the conversation when it comes to ageism, because I don't feel they have the same ride as we do. But 50 plus is a different place to be for a human being, certainly in the workplace. And I love what you do about it
Mm.
and how you frame it, because it is everything positive.
Mm.
You mentioned in our emails that the dear Betty, who I just adored from your Instagram, has passed away. So I'm really sorry about that. Betty
Oh,
the gym
yes,
rat.
the girl from the gym, the woman from the gym.
Yes.
Oh, I know.
Yes.
I was so sorry. But that is life, isn't it? That is life. She had a long life, 95, pushing. Ooh. Oh my God, she was fabulous. Never gave me a tumble. She was busy. I loved her.
Even the photograph that you took from her back, because otherwise she'd have thumped you.
Oh, totally.
I just love that so much. And when I don't want to get my ass to the gym, I do think of her and go,
Ah.
well, what would she do? She'd go and do it.
I would like to put something in here. Yes, I'm positive about aging, but I like to be real about it. I really have a problem. I'm not going to name things. I don't even remember half of them, but there are so many age sites out that's a good thing. And there's so many menopause sites out. But there's also a lot of bullshit. Oh, going silver is wonderful, and drink 7 glasses of water every day. And it's so wonderful to get older. It's not all wonderful. It's a learning process, it's learning. It's learning to I really have a problem with being invisible. A lot of these are decisions. I'm not going to be invisible. Stop. It changes how you're being viewed on the street. But I also was hassled as a young woman. So I'm going to take the positive part of that. But you have to adjust to your face changing. You have to adjust to your strength changing. And work not against it, but with it. I really have a problem with everything's better than ever. Everything's different.
Preferring to be where I am now and go ahead than go backwards,
Yes.
definitely.
Yes.
But would I like to not wake up with puffy eyes like I did when I was 20 and look fresh? Yes, I would like that bit.
Yes, sure. Yes, and have 2 martinis and not feel it the next day. That'd be swell.
But I love the fact that you do drink martinis and it's not,
Oh, I
oh
do.
no, I only drink water.
Oh, see, that's what I'm saying.
Mm,
Stop.
I love a martini.
Oh, me too. I was tempted to last night, but I thought, no, I don't want to be dumb, because sometimes it does affect you the next morning. And
So, what brings you particular pleasure in life at the moment?
I'm a physical person, and I'm happy for that, because my older sisters, who one of them was just here, they're all couch potatoes, and I'm so lucky that I was born, let's do things. So I love to go to the gym. I enjoy it. I love to swim. I enjoy it. I love to bike, although the streets right now are pretty crazy. It's a little tough to riding around because of all of the constant working on building construction. It's really drag. But all of these things give me light and joy. So I am happy for that. I don't consider theater watching a hobby. That's just a passion. During COVID, I considered moving to the country because I lived a lot of it in the city. But at the very end, I moved to the country. It's not for me. It was great for a weekend, but I love my city, or a city, a good city.
I can relate.
Yes, right, right. I love the theater. I love so many things about city life. Look, if my sister watches this, she's gonna. But she is moving a little more as she gets older. But it's not her. She's pretty good. But I do have a problem with people saying, "Oh, I'm in my 70s now, so that is really a point of view." And also, I have been lucky with my health, but it's a point of view in life. And I can't say enough to all the young women out there, man. Take care of your health. You have a martini, but just, if you have a martini, then eat a lot of vegetables that day.
Perfect balance.
Yes, perfect balance. It really is. It'll kick your ass in when you're really later in life. As I mentioned, this 85-year-old, she does Pilates 3 days a week. She had a very bad case of COVID. She didn't sail through, but she got through. She's such an inspiration to me about sharp intellect, how aging can be.
Is there any piece of advice then, in addition to that you would give the younger women?
Well, I'm going to say things that they probably all have heard before. And I'm going to say something that they may think is corny, but I would say to not be constrained or to not worry about that conventional timeline that people put on you. Be, imaginative with your aging. Don't don't cave. And that takes guts.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's your parents, whether it's your husband, think about it before you get pregnant. Think about it before you start a family. Think about it before you move to the country because you think that the kids will want a big house. Just think about these steps in your lives. And also, people always say this, but not worry so much about stuff. That really made a huge difference for me. Once I hit my 30s, I was always so driven. What is my next goal? What is my next goal? What is my next goal? And it was important and still is important to meet them. I am not a Buddhist, but it's interesting to study those beliefs and to get more in the moment. I mean, that's something that these kids are going to hear. But if you just kind of take a breath and enjoy a moment and not think about next, 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 it would really enhance your life.
Are you allowed to tell us any more about your TV project and everything else that you're working on?
The TV project is about older women and sex and sexuality. I mean, I didn't know anything. I used to look at my mother and thinking, she did it 6 times to have us. And it was horrifying to me. Of course, that was a different generation. And I want to show that pleasure is, not only our right, but it could be fun. I want to talk about the woman who inspired this particular show, Betty Dotson. Do you know who she is?
The name rings a bell.
Betty Dotson? Yeah, yeah. Well, she's passed away in the last 2 years, but she was on the Goop show. There was a special Goop and Sex. And oh, did I love her wipe up the floor with all of those young kids. She was funny with them, but she explained to them that it's all about the vulva, not the vagina. She just corrected them, but they just laughed the whole way through about her instructing them about how to have an orgasm. P.S. She's 92 in it. The next day, the critique of the show was, don't have Gwyneth be the host of this. Give it to Betty. Now that is a powerful woman.
Mm-hmm.
So she inspired the show that I'm doing.
It sounds wonderful. I hope HBO and or others snap it up.
And it's funny too.
Is there one lesson that menopause has taught you that you would pass on?
I'm going to go back to, one lesson. I'm going to give you 2. I'm going to go back to just calming down about life. just kind of breathe through it all. If you are having a flip out, which I did a lot of through menopause, if I had breathed through some of that, I would have just gotten through it easier. So now at this point, I am a much calmer person and doing things that I always thought were like, yeah, sure. But, the meditation helps. All of those things that I rolled my eyes at. Guess what? It helps. So that would be my menopause lesson, is to do the things you say you were going to do, but didn't. Bottom line is there's much less time ahead of us, and the recognition of that will change your life.
Maryjane, thank you so much for your time. It has been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Lovely. Wonderful talking.
I will put all the details of where to find Maryjane in the show notes, gloriousbroads.com, and on Instagram and indeed TikTok, all at Glorious Broads. Follow us on the podcast app of your choice, pick us up wherever you get your podcasts, and please do leave a review, as it really does help indicate to others where we are. Tell all your friends about it, as the more the merrier. Thank you for listening. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.